listen, everybody's built the model of a plane and then they've just walked around the house with it. Come on, even today, I did this with the Spitfire the other day. Come on, I'm 70 years of age, I'm walking around my house with the Spitfire. You know, sure you do it. We all do it.
When you see an airplane sitting there completely finished, and you sit there and you blink and go, it almost looks like you could get in it and fly, almost. If I can get that look, I've just won a Super Bowl. I feel like a child again.
If some guy is standing, you know, in Yankee Stadium, you know, or somebody wants to, you know, go to, you know, when they're, you know, going to Maple Leaf Gardens back in the day, it's that same passion. And I think when you have that passion, I think that only makes your life better.
Modeling is something that I've always enjoyed my entire life. It's never waned, and the only time it ever did was university because I was so busy with school. It's always, it's hard to explain. It's a part of your fiber. Of course, the other aspect that makes it really cool is the history. I love military history, and every moment I have, if I'm not building models, well, actually, when I'm building models, I put on YouTube. I will watch anything that's military history.
I wish more people knew how accessible it is, and that's probably the thing with so many of the hobbyists being older, is it's to somebody wanting to start, they see it, oh, this is an adult hobby, this is not for kids. It's very accessible. I think if a kid can play with Lego and not swallow half the parts, they're ready for maybe a simple snap together kit. Maybe not quite paint and glue yet, or even if they're like they have Lego but they want to go further. You get a small little kit with a dozen parts, and you see how it goes.
It's hard for young people to get into it because there's so much else out there. I think a lot of kids and younger people now think to get ahead I have to do extracurricular activity, I have to volunteer here, I have to do band, I have to do sports or anything, right? And that takes away from model building. Model building is one small aspect, and they don't, unless they walk into a hobby store, they don't have no idea what it is. Same with model contests. Kids don't know about it unless someone brings them to it, right?
I think it's I want to say it's part of our duty or role to bring new people into a store like this, because this is it. This is not only where you buy a model, but this is the heart. This is the community center. This is the place where you walk in, you see other modelers, you talk to other modelers. This is the heart and soul. People now say this is the golden age of modeling in our hobby. It is in the aspect of availability and technology. Absolutely. I will not argue with that at all. But again, exposure, like you said, I think that is so limited now, because like I said, when I was growing up, you would go into any store and there would be models. So it was for us, it was the corner variety store at Runnymede and Annette in the West End of Toronto. Mike's Variety. He used to have a small shelf with models. 10-minute ride on my bicycle, Jane and Bloor, was Rigby's Hobby Shop. It was Mecca. Then, when you went to do other shopping trips with your parents and that, all the department stores had models. You'd go to Eaton's and Simpson's and Toyland and whatever, and the model shelves were huge. So yes, I agree. On a retail aspect, the landscape has changed tremendously.
And that's why I'm saddened every time a hobby shop closes. Because when a hobby shop closes, that whole geographic area will not have the opportunity to be introduced to an absolute fantastic hobby. I think like any other sport or hobby, part of the staying in the hobby are the people that you get to meet and the quality people you get to meet.
I think the general conception of most people for models in general is that it's a toy. It's adult people playing with plastic toys, sort of, right? So they're not, I guess, they don't realize the amount of research, the amount of artistic ability that goes into making one of those. Not only just modeling, but any other hobby, whether it's like needlepoint or stuff like that, or woodworking. There is artistic ability in that. So.
I see this as a creative art form now. We even, at this point now, are embracing artist mediums like oil paint. For example, the other things are our brushes that we use, and how we present as well. I like to tell stories, and it falls into play with not only just the model kit by itself, but we are doing the scenery, and we are doing the little figurines that go together to tell the story.
To make something from this little box into something that lives and breathes, I think that's great. But I think a lot of people still see modeling as a toy thing. I think they see it as a hobby that they did when they were children, and it's too bad because model building is used in a lot of professions. Being an urban planner, like we use models of skyscrapers and buildings for and all that. But people still have this perception that modeling is only for kids.
It takes time. It was a lot of investment of effort to build something to a certain standard or a certain quality. And you know, if I was rationally thinking about that every time I picked up a new kit, I say, hey, it's going to take me, 20, 30, 40, 60 hours to build this thing the way I'm going to be happy about it. You might think about putting that down.
Now you set little goals like tonight I'm going to finish that section, tomorrow I'm going to try and finish that section, and then it's like, oh, maybe next week I'll get this done, but then something comes up and you end up pushing it back another week.
And I just find it rewarding because your mind is active in it. I just love it. I can't get enough of it, whether it's building or painting. Although I wish one day that somebody would invent the self-cleaning airbrush. Outside of that task, which I don't like, it's a great relaxing hobby, and as soon as you start building, everything around you just disappears.
I don't think one can say one person's career is more demanding than the other, especially when you're in that kind of prime of your life and you're kind of knee deep in your career. I don't think one can say that their career is more demanding in time than the other.
If you have a job where one of those jobs that can have a high stress to it, where you're getting barraged all day, and then you maybe got to drive home, get home, sit down, it just takes everything, all the crap that you've gone through in the day just goes to the background, and all of a sudden now you're in the 1950s, or you're at the racetrack, or you're on an airfield, or your head just goes into somewhere totally different, and it all goes away.
We all do it for specific reasons, but for me, the two things I had to keep in my life were, although you wouldn't know it now, I've had to be physically active all my life, so I tried to keep in as best shape as I could for my careers, and also modeling. So they were both, to me, used as a bit of a stress release. Physical activity, if I had a bad shift or did something that was not the most pleasant to do at work, I could go to the gym, go to the pool, and then right when I'd finish that, I'd start modeling just to get my mind. It would just take my mind out of one of the situations I may have been at work.
It almost kind of flushes the mind so that the mind's able to recalibrate and, okay, now I have these other problems in real life that, here's how I can go about solving them, right? So it becomes a lot more manageable, I guess. I think really the process of building and creating for me is so therapeutic. I can go into a building session with all kinds of problems that I'm kind of obsessing about, and then I come out of that and the mind is clear a little bit, and you're better able to kind of put things in proper perspective after.
I always believe that whatever we do in life, we need a pastime. I think that a pastime is something, or a hobby, doesn't matter if it's woodworking, restoring an old car, model building. I think these are things that enhance our lives, because what it does is it allows us to think in different dimensions. It allows us to I don't want to say wind down, but modeling was just one of those things I could use as a mechanism to just remove myself from a lot of the things that kind of wear us all down at times.
You just sit there and it's calming, and whether you get something done or nothing done, like you could spend an hour detailing an engine, or I could spend an hour simply reading about that engine, and it has a certain calming effect, and it just time almost stands still, but yet seems to accelerate.
The energy for those 3 hours, 3 minutes as it feels, it's the same intensity from minute one to the last minute of that 3 hours. You are totally enthralled with just what you're focusing on now. You're not thinking of anything else. I'm literally focused on that engine to sell, and I'm kind of like the mechanic putting this thing on.
Or you're down on your hands and knees looking for that tiny part that just kind of disappeared into the rug. Either way, you're preoccupied and you're not thinking about it. It just takes your mind away from everything.
I think it's so important that you have something that, a distraction, something you look forward to doing, outside of family life, something that's maybe your own thing to do. It's become a very social thing for me now. I mean, I've met a lot of great friends through the hobby. In fact, I think almost all of my close friends are people I've met through the hobby. So it's the actual doing, practicing of the hobby, and all the benefits that you get from that in terms of being therapeutic and stress relief and whatnot. There's very much a social aspect of it too, right? I've made a lot of great friends through the hobby. We'll joke around. We'll talk about things that we're working on, things that we want to do. So there's all that to keep you going. So I think whether it's modeling, or whether it's collecting movie memorabilia, or whether it's being part of a book club, or being very passionate about a sport or anything, I think you need to have something that kind of draws your attention.